"32 Facts About the Actor Behind Everyone's Favorite Office Suck-Up, Rainn Wilson."
Don't turn your back on bears, men you have wronged, or the dominant turkey during mating season.
Rainn Wilson spent 9 seasons playing one of the most likable and often most infuriating characters in sitcom history. We all grew to have the perfect balance of love and hate for Dwight Kurt Schrute within the span of 201 episodes. However, he has appeared in a slew of other movies and TV shows ranging from drama to sci-fi. Today, we honor the man, the myth, the volunteer member of Lackawanna County Sheriff Department with 32 facts about Rainn Wilson. Number 1. He spent a good portion of his childhood in Nicaragua. The reason he was able to play a man with blood whiter than his Amish-German time travel ancestry is that he was born in Seattle and has Norwegian heritage. However, his family took him to grow up in Nicaragua. Number 2. His dad was a sci-fi writer. Robert G. Wilson would make Dwight Schrute proud. His most famous work is called Tentacles of Dawn. Number 3. Worms were an unfortunate recurring theme of his childhood. Wilson was not the most fortunate child, as he caught infectious worms not once, but twice in his childhood. And just trust me on this, you don't want to know where the worms were on his body. Number 4. He was a cool kid. In other words, he didn't spend those summer nights of adolescence making out with as many girls as possible or driving cars at top speed. Instead, he spent them in his friend Larry's basement, conjuring dragons and mixing potions. Yes, my friends, Wilson was a storied D&D dungeon master in his childhood town. Number 5. Before he hit it big, he drove a moving van. If you happen to be moving to New York in the late 80s, your U-Haul driver might have been none other than Dwight Schrute. Number 6. He survived 2 muggings. Fortunately, he didn't suffer any serious injuries, but one time he was hit on the back of the head with a stick. Number 7. He won an award for acting long before he played Dwight. When he was performing in off-Broadway shows in New York, he won the Helen Hayes Award for his performance at the Arena Theater. Number 8. One of his first on-camera roles was in a cult classic. Wilson played Lank in the sci-fi cult classic Galaxy Quest.
Before we travel to the ship, please let me know if you have any requirements. Weapons, documents, personnel.
Number 9. He made the most amazing cameo in Juno. Juno is everyone's favorite lighthearted comedy about a teenager grappling with growing up, getting pregnant, and giving her baby to a stranger. Wow, it sounds like a particularly dark episode of Degrassi when you describe the plot that way. I promise it's a very funny comedy. Rainn Wilson makes a surprise cameo as a convenience store clerk who prods a bit too deeply into Juno's personal life in one of the first scenes of the movie. On top of that, he has one of the best lines in the entire movie.
Your ego is prego, no doubt about it.
Number 10. Before The Office, Wilson was interested in making his own sitcom. It would have been called Assisted Living, and it was going to be about 2 slackers inheriting an assisted living facility. Number 11. He was also considered for a role in Arrested Development. Wilson might have traded his mustard-colored shirt and tactically placed in-office pepper spray for a set of magic cards and a one-way ticket to Ladies' Man's Anonymous. It's funny, I can almost picture him in the role of Joe Bluth, but obviously, I'm glad he took his role as our favorite Office wannabe badass instead. Number 12. He originally auditioned to be Michael Scott in The Office.
That's a fact. Did you know that? When you are in the field, you can clean a wound by whizzing on it.
That would have been a very different series. Fortunately, the casting director saw that he was meant to be Dwight, and the rest is history. Number 13. Who else auditioned for Dwight? Perhaps the most famous of the Dwight contenders during the audition process for The Office was none other than comedic heavyweight Seth Rogen. Stand-up comedian Jim Gaffigan was another contender.
If you're in the field, you can clean a man's wound by taking a whiz on it. That is actually in first aid books written by the Red Cross.
Number 14. He watched all the episodes of the UK version of The Office before he began shooting as Dwight. Actors in the US version of The Office were in 2 different camps when it came to the British version of the show. While Steve Carell avoided watching episodes of the British version of the show to avoid copying Ricky Gervais's performance as David Brent, Wilson, John Krasinski, who played Jim Halpert, and Brian Baumgartner, who played Kevin Malone, all watched the entire series. Wilson joked in a panel discussion that he wanted to imitate Mackenzie Crook's performance as Gareth, UK Dwight equivalent, perfectly, but unfortunately, he's not very good at imitating. Number 15. When describing Dwight's wardrobe, he joked, "I kind of feel like my grandmother could play Dwight." He's felt this way ever since he first tried on his mustard-colored short-sleeved shirt and nerdy glasses. Number 16. Money well spent. A bunch of mathematicians who have way too much time on their hands calculated the estimated total that Jim spent on pranks on Dwight over 9 seasons. The total ranges somewhere between $7,000 and $10,000. It was worth it. Number 17. He found it extremely difficult to keep in character while in scenes with Steve Carell. As all Office fans know, Steve Carell is the king of comedy acting. This was unfortunate for Wilson, who had to try his hardest not to laugh while sharing scenes with essentially the Jedi Master of being funny. In her podcast, The Office Ladies, Jenna Fisher, the actress who played Pam, recalls one particular scene Wilson shared with Carell in the first Halloween episode of the series. She sat in the background of the scene and she remembers hearing more of Wilson cracking up than the actual scene because Carell was so funny. Number 18. In his memoir, Bassoon King, he revealed an embarrassing fact about Carell. Wilson mentions in his book that Carell has overactive sweat glands, so the temperature on set was always kept at 64 degrees to prevent Carell from sweating through his costumes. Eventually, the whole rest of the cast was allowed to bring space heaters to prevent them from freezing. Number 19. Dwight's costume stays true to his heritage. Dwight's overcoat was an East German military coat, and as we all know, Dwight is half German, half Amish time traveler. Number 20. In each season of The Office, there's a Billy Joel reference. Most famously in season 2, when Dwight sings "Ryan Started the Fire," a parody of Joel's "We Didn't Start the Fire."
Ryan started the fire! It was always burning since the world been turning!
Number 21. Coincidence or foreshadowing by the writers of The Office. The Office sticklers, Dwight and Angela, are everyone's favorite couple in the show. In the pilot episode of the show, Dwight is seen humming "Little Drummer Boy" at his desk. Angela Martin mentions several times throughout the series that is her favorite song. A nice little detail, but it's unfortunately hard to tell if the writers intended for this or as a cute little coincidence. Number 22. Bobblehead mania. Dwight is a fan of bobbleheads, hence why Angela gives him one as a present in season 2. Two other bobbleheads are displayed on his desk throughout the series, one of Mike Lieberthal and one of John Kirk. Both of these bobbleheads paid homage to the real-life Pennsylvania celebrities. Lieberthal played catcher for the Scranton Wilkes Barre baseball team, and Kruk was a Philadelphia Philly. Number 23. He guest starred as Dwight in an episode of Family Guy. It's a true mark of success for an actor when a character you played shows up in an episode of Seth MacFarlane's magnum opus Family Guy. It's a more prestigious honor than receiving an Emmy, and that's just a fact.
I know my staplers by sound and by weight. And that stapler, good sir, is a Schrute.
Number 24. There was supposed to be a Dwight-centered spin-off of The Office. The farm would have centered around Dwight and his family. Unfortunately, NBC passed, but an episode that featured in season 9 of The Office, which Dwight returned home to bury his Aunt Shirley, was supposed to be a pilot of the farm. Number 25. He was really playing the recorder in the Office episode Grief Counseling. If you want to throw a bird funeral, you've got to have proper musical accompaniment. In this episode, Michael is unable to cope with the death of his former boss, Ed Truck, which somehow leads to him coordinating a funeral for a bird Toby saw die on his way into the office that morning. During said bird funeral, Dwight plays the song "On the Wings of Love" on his recorder, while Pam provides the vocals.
Just smile for me and let the day begin.
Wilson was actually playing the recorder while filming this bittersweet scene. Number 26. Speaking of musical instruments he plays, Wilson is also proficient in playing the bassoon, the guitar, clarinet, along with a smattering of other instruments. Damn it, the creators of The Office, you missed your opportunity to have Dwight play in a one-man band. Number 27. He was in a band in high school. The band was called Collected Moss, which is, of course, the sexiest name for a rock band ever. The band mostly played covers of rock songs. Number 28. His favorite bands are all the greats. In an interview with KEXP, Rainn Wilson singles out the Beatles, Queen, and Electric Light Orchestra as some of his favorites, but his ultimate obsession has always been London Calling. Number 29. He loves pit bulls. Pit bulls are an unfortunately misunderstood breed. Because of their size, people tend to think they should be feared, but the only thing that should fear them is a yummy bowl of kibble. No one understands the teddy bear-like nature of pit bulls more than Rainn Wilson, who proudly fosters pit bulls and welcomes them into his home. Number 30. He's done a huge amount of animated work. Wilson played Gargamel in the 2016 Smurfs The Lost Village, along with playing Lex Luthor in several video games and multiple roles in Adventure Time. Number 31. He's a friend of the College Humor YouTube channel. College Humor is one of the funniest channels out there. Wilson has guest starred in several of their videos. Number 32. He was in a remake of the classic comedy The Princess Bride. This miniseries was a comically low-budget remake of the classic comedy. Despite the modest budget, it starred some big names, like Rob Reiner and Zazie Beetz.